Hello, this is Overlord Bo, and we're back with another ship review video, and today we'll be looking at the new Premium Tier 7 Italian DD, the FR25. You'll be able to get the FR25 for 6,800 doubloons starting on Thursday or Friday, so March 31st or April 1st, depending upon what server you're on. Now, I do not recommend this ship, and I'll be going over in the video in detail why, but for one of the main reasons is for being a mini Paulo-Emilio, it does the job pretty poorly. Now, let's look at the build. I would do main armament with engine boost modification, aiming, and propulsion. The commander build I would do with fire preventative maintenance, last stand, probability expert, concealment, fearless brawler, swift and silence, consumable enhancement, and grease the gears. Now with the build out of the way, and without further ado, we are now going to watch the replay. So as the replay goes on, I'll be going over the ship stats and such. I will make you guys aware though that I played this ship about 15 to 20 times trying to get a good replay, and this is about the best I could have done. So there is a good kill in this, so you will definitely enjoy that. Alright, so let's talk about the survivability. So the survivability has a HP of 19,000. If you do build into the HP pill I recommend, it goes to 21,450. It has a 16mm bow, stern hull with a 13mm superstructure. It does have the highest DD health pool at tier 7. The FR25 has a good overall survivability thanks to her huge HP pool. It does have a high speed and exhaust smoke, however, she is a relatively easy target to hit without speed boost, and her turning ability is very poor. She will rely more on her HP pool to survive battles. Now let's talk about the primary guns. There are 5 single 139mm 40 guns with an A, B, Q, X, Y layout. Now, they have a base reload of 6.6 seconds with a 15-second turret traverse. And they can fire broadside 40 degrees to the rear and 40 degrees off the bow. These guns do have a base range of 12.7 kilometers and a 2.0 sigma. Now, since it is an Italian D, it does get HE and SAP rounds. Now, they do have 4. Now, with the angles I just talked about, they do have poor firing angles. And it also has terrible DPM and loses trades against almost everyone but tier 5 DDs. The FR25s are unexpectedly disappointing for an Italian DD. Even with SAP, her DPM is inferior to all but the IGN DDs. Many lower tier DDs can also outtrade her in a fair gunfight. Her shell ballistics are at least good enough so aiming her guns is easier. Though FR25 can use her guns in a pinch, she does not rely on them to carry matches. Now moving on to the torpedoes. There are 2 triple 550mm torpedoes. They have a 6-kilometer range, a base damage of 14,833 damage, an 80-second reload, and have a 68 knots base speed. Now these torps are about average torpedo damage, and they're short torpedo torps. The FR25's torp rush is what defines her playstyle, kind of like the Paulo-Emilio. But unlike her tier 9 counterpart, Paulo-Emilio's torps are surprisingly unimpressive. Their average alpha and restrictive range severely hurts her. Even landing all 6 torps will not kill many full health BBs. Still, it is more than enough to kill in one salvo to kill any cruiser in the game. Now let's talk about the anti-air. You have no flak. The mid is 33 DPS and the near is 6 DPS. I don't know why they even bothered giving her anti-air at all, because it's pretty much useless. Let's talk about the maneuverability. For the maneuverability, there's a it has a 36 knot base speed. Also has a 25% speed boost. So there is that as well. Sorry, I apologize. It is a 20% speed boost, not 25%. For some reason, it doesn't have the same engine boost as the Paulo-Emilio. It has to the 20% and the 25. Now, it has a 690 meter turning circle and a 4.4 second rudder shift time. It is the fastest DD at tier 7 tied with Vaculin, but it does also have the largest turning circle among the tier 7 DDs and the worst rudder shift time. As she shares the same hull as the tier 6 Duopard, her turning radius and top speed are the same. The rudder shift time is very similar as well, though the FR25 is slightly inferior compared to other DDs. Now, however, FR25 boosts the fastest overall top speed at the cost of the worst turning performance among DDs at the tier. As long as her speed boost is active, she can juice shots all day. However, her dodging ability is mediocre at best when her speed boost is not active. Now let's talk about the concealment. For the concealment for the base, it's 7 kilometers for sea and 3.6 for air. Now for the best, it's 6.3 kilometers is the best and 3.2 kilometers is the best for aerial. Now it does have a smoke firing penalty of 2.9 kilometers. Now it does have a relatively high detection overall. The FR25's concealment is mediocre overall as it has a high detection, but it's average when compared to other tier 7 DDs. Unfortunately, she tends to struggle hard because of her poor effectiveness when finding other DDs. Still, 6.3 kilometers with a fast DD is enough for her to charge most ships with a reasonable chance of success. Now let's talk about the consumables. It has a standard DD DCP with infinite charges, 40-second reload, and 5-second immunity. The exhaust smoke consumable is 4 charges base, 30-second base lay time, and 38 seconds when upgraded. And it has a French speed boost of plus 20% speed, 120-second duration, and 120-second reload in 3 charges. Now, with the build that you do have, it does give the action time of the engine boost to 171 seconds and a reload of 114 seconds instead. Now, her Italian exhaust smoke is an integral part of F25's yellow playstyle. The ability to move at top speed while hidden in smoke is invaluable for yellow torp rushing other ships. Now, you do have to be wary of radar and hydro as they will negate her smoke, potentially allowing the enemy to counter your rush. Now, FR25 uses the improved French DD speed boost, giving her the highest top speed of any tier 7 ship, and greatly outruns almost all other DDs. Unlike the other Italian DDs, FR25 speed boost lasts for a long time, greater for both repositioning and for easier timing for your torp rushes. Now let's talk about my overall impressions. It has a medium skill floor and a high skill ceiling. Similar to her tier 9 counterpart Paulo-Emilio, the FR25 is another torp rushing boat. Her playstyle is very feast or famine, either netting amazing or no damage games, depending upon the enemy competence and map layout. With her exhaust smoke in 50 knot speed, she can rush down isolated ships and kill them in 1 to 2 torp salvos. Now, unlike the Paulo-Emilio, however, the FR25 only carries enough torps to rush 1 enemy at a time. This is the price she pays for a matchmaking bracket with less radar and easier opponents. Now, outside of rushing, she can harass enemies with her relatively high gun range, though her firepower won't do much except to annoy them. Players who read the situations and exploit them opportunities will enjoy FR25 as the yellow win and depth strike targets. Now, for randoms, I would say the ship is mediocre. It struggles in heavy radar and hydro environments and when up tiered. And ranked is also average since radars are lost behind premium radar cruisers. As well, timed rushes can instantly kill 1 ship and quickly swing the match. Still average at best due to unreliability. Now, let's talk about like my own experience with the ship. Now, I've had a lot of issues trying to get good games with the FR25. Usually with most ships, whenever they first came out, usually I'd be able to get a feel of how the ship runs within a few matches, and be able to give like an accurate description of the ship. But the FR25, I suffered to get any good matchmaking or good matches at all with the ship. The guns are very poor, the torpedoes, you only have 6, and you can't really dev strike any real higher tier battleships. So for the ship being in a tier 7 bracket, it almost feels like the ship should be a tier 6 instead of a tier 7. With how the guns feel and how the torpedoes feel. Now it does get the Paulo-Emilio's, it does get the exhaust smoke, and you do play like the similar playstyle as her, but it just seems like tier for tier, if the Paulo-Emilio was brought down to a tier 7, the Paulo-Emilio would still be a way better ship than the FR25. Now I know that this is a rare kind of playstyle having like a Paulo-Emilio, so the price of 6,100 doubloons isn't too much, but at the same time I can't really in good conscience recommend this ship unless you're looking for some like a unique playstyle. Pretty much I saw like whenever you were taking hits, whenever I was taking hits, whenever I was being focused at all or any sort of damage at all taken, it always was so easy to hit me due to the Tor rudder shift. It was really hard to dodge. One of the plus sides of this ship is its horn. But surprisingly, it has a battleship horn on it. I really don't know why, but for some reason it has a battleship horn on it, so like kind of find it pretty funny that it does. Now, I should have just rushed the ship from the front. This is kind of my bad. I went from the behind here, and you'll see my mistake later, but I should have went in front of the ship. So you guys can really kill me in the comments there, but I should have went in the front of the ship here. Definitely should have done that. But you'll also see I kind of met somebody else, which some of you guys will probably predict who I'm going to meet up with. Now, again, the ship being a tier 7, we all know that right now, one of the worst tiers to play when you get up tiered is tier 7. And since tier 7s almost always get up tiered, you're going to be fighting higher tier DDs, higher tier cruisers, and higher tier BBs a lot of the time. So, trying to recommend a ship that already does poorly at its own tier when it's going in, when it's all I could get up tiered, isn't really something I'm likely to do. So that's why I was saying that I don't really recommend this ship. Now, if the ship had better guns to where it could kind of do more long-range engagements, I would be more willing to recommend this ship. But it has a really poor DPM, and it doesn't really outweigh the negatives in the end. But you can try to do like a long range build for the ship if you like, instead of just building for like trying to just build for the rushing. You could always build into the guns, try to do long range if that's something you want to do. Just be like a super long range annoyance build. You can potentially do that as well. You don't need to like go for torps, just do long range and just be annoying like a super long range French gunboat. You could potentially play that in that kind of play style instead of trying to do torpedo rushing. That for sure is a reasonable option for you to do. You can do that as well. Now, as you can see as I'm dead, let's go to the final score. In the final score, we lost the match in the end. I get 54,000 damage. We got the CV kill, which was the highlight of the match. And I did about 860 base XP. Wasn't the best. Wasn't the best match ever, but I did about 12 matches trying to get a good match replay or any kind of good content, like a good match at all I could pull out to give you guys, and in the end I just couldn't. But yep, that's my overview and review of the FR25. Again, you'll be able to get it for 6,800 doubloons starting on March 31st and April 1st. So, but yep, if you guys have any questions and concerns, definitely leave them in the comments down below. But yep, this is Overlord Boat, and I'll talk to y'all later. Oh, big stretch, dude. Oh, big stretch, yeah.